Meantime, let's get more on the China side ahead of these talks in Geneva over the weekend. Turn to Eunice Yoon in Beijing. Eunice, interesting to see how the backdrop is getting painted there. The Journal's got a piece about China perhaps using rare earths as a bargaining chip as they go in.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. And it's really interesting seeing how each side is messaging as they posture ahead of these talks. From President Trump, he just posted on Truth Social moments ago and had said 80% tariff on China seems right, up to Scott B. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has previously said that the point of these talks is about de-escalation. So the indications that we're getting from the U.S. side is that the hope is that we would see a reduction or maybe a suspension of some of these tariffs. But on the Chinese side, the signaling has been that China will remain tough. And a lot of this messaging is for the Chinese audience. So this is meet China halfway, treat China as an equal in talks, and don't expect us really to go to these talks and fall over. They're saying that if you try to coerce us, we will walk or refuse. And then on top of that, the point of the rare earths. The Chinese are saying that we can hit you back where it's really going to hurt. The Commerce Ministry today announced a crackdown on rare earth smuggling and blaming it in part on foreign entities. And then the social media account that's linked to CCTV, which is very closely followed for its commentary on U.S.-China trade, has been mocking the U.S. for what they've described as rare earth shortages. So the expectations right now of anything meaningful coming out of these weekend talks really isn't there. But of course, people are hoping that we will see some negotiations down the line. And in fact, that's what Bessent has said, that this is really more of an initial discussion before we see some hard negotiations down the line.
Meantime, David mentioned the Chinese export data that we got for April. Exports to the U.S. down 21, but to Vietnam up 23, up to Thailand up 28, to Indonesia up 37. Are they finding other homes for these goods?
Yeah, no, the way that these numbers have been painted here is very much falling into what China has as a narrative, that it's now not as in relying as much on the U.S. market as before. So what was interesting was that there was a surge of 8.1% for these numbers. But at the end of the day, though, of course, China does still rely on exports and does want to keep selling to the U.S. So a lot of this is also just feeding into their narrative.
Meantime, I wonder what they thought of the UK gaggle in the Oval yesterday. The Journal's got some reporting that the president actually called Starmer while Starmer was watching an Arsenal soccer match. Starmer was not planning to have an announcement on Thursday, but the president sort of, I guess, talked him into it, according to the Journal's reporting. Is there a sense that the U.S. is trying to gin up some wins?
I didn't hear the last question that you'd said, something about ginning up something. But in terms of when you look at the way that President Trump would approach the UK, an ally, and the way he would be seen in China is really, really different because these are such different countries. And of course, like, the political systems are quite different. So, you would see that President Trump would be coming under pressure politically much more than the Chinese. And also what I find interesting is just the political messaging and the pressure that President Trump is under. In fact, it looks as though, at least from here, that his political success is very much tied to getting these trade deals done. Whereas President Xi is just all about, standing firm and making sure that China doesn't get treated badly. So I think at the end of the day, if the Chinese walk away with nothing, then it really doesn't matter from a political standpoint. But for President Trump, I wonder if it would matter if there wasn't any movement there, and what would happen with the markets.
Yeah, that is going to make Monday morning very interesting, depending on the headlines that we get by Sunday night. Eunice, thank you. As always, Eunice Yoon.